I know marijuana is harmful. I know it can't improve my game. My friends and I have faced many battles, and we have always dueled without drugs. That's playing a game I can't win. Honor. My anti-drug.
Konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, and oi, c***. Oh, originally, I was planning on reviewing a different game. But sometimes, life throws you some curveballs. And sometimes, they're made of lead. So, I decided to review a 20-year-old PS2 game, based on a card game, based on a show, based on a manga, based on a civil war. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get to it. Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist of the Roses is a historicalist revision retelling of the 15th century English Civil War called the War of the Roses, where two rival houses, the Lancasters, represented by a red rose, and the Yorks, represented by a white rose, fought for control over the English crown. This led to 32 years of bloody war. After a lot of big murder, a king was finally crowned and a new house that succeeded the previous two was formed, House Tudor, which was represented by both a red and white rose. 474 years later, on an island in the East Asian Sea, a baby was born. He was called Kazuki Takashi, a free thinker of his time with a keen interest in history. From an early age he became interested in manga, and by 1996 his work was featured in Shonen Jump, a weekly magazine for teens. The manga was called Yu-Gi-Oh! And featured a main character whose hair colour is a flag. The premise is the titular character solves a cursed pyramid puzzle, causing him to get possessed by an evil spirit. He then gets into wacky adventures, where he judges mortal souls by trapping them in shadow games, most of which are rigged from the start, and are designed to make you show your true character. And oh boy, this demon just hopes he catches you cheating.
闇の扉が開かれた。なんだと。闇のゲーム、人間の本性を暴き出す。
But sadly, that wasn't very marketable. So, when the anime started to air, they reworked the story for a younger audience in mind, and shifted focus to Duel Monsters, the fictional trading card game from within the manga. Yu-Gi-Oh! Then exploded in popularity and received tons of merchandise, most notably the trading card game, and eventually video games. In 2001, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist of the Roses was released, a game not relevant to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Canon, but instead the leading second-hand source on what really happened during that war. The game starts with a brief introduction to the time period in conflict. The war was reaching its conclusion and the Yorkists were in the lead, led by Richard III, this guy. And Henry fucking Tudor was hiding in France while trying to gain a foothold in mainland England. The reason the Lancasters were so far behind is because a man called Christian Rosencrantz showed up to England and sided with Lord Crawford, who was a Yorkist nobleman. With him, he brought 7 followers that used magic cards to beat back the armies of the Lancasters. Because none of the Lancasters knew how to play a card game. So being aware that no one in England knew how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in the 1400s, Henry Tudor's mother, Margaret Bruford, enlisted the help of a druid, who summons your player character from modern day back in time through Stonehenge. Look at this guy. Orco looking ass.
Make the humans suffer.
In my opinion, summoning a Yu-Gi-Oh! Player for anything is the same as a satanic ritual. So to reiterate, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist of the Roses is an isekai about a real war. The Goblin Man then tells you that you're part of a prophecy and asks you your name.
Are you for real?
He then offers you 3 starting decks. More on that later. For now I'll say I made the correct choice. Christian shows up and offers you to join the Winners Club. He says when this is all over, he'll send you back home, take you to a McDonald's, get you some tendies. Real upstanding guy. The game then gives you a choice. Join this obvious sex pest, or this trustworthy guy. An easy choice. Christian tells you that in order to send you back home, you need to collect the 8 red rose cards from the Lancasters. To do that, you need to beat them in a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And this brings us neatly onto gameplay. This is going to be a dense one though, so buckle up. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a bastard game for cheaters. This is well known. Because of that, it's a good thing that this game is actually really fun. If you are unaware of how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Here's a basic rundown. What really separates Duelists of the Roses from the card game is 4 big differences. Duelists of the Roses takes place on a 7x7 board, where you move your cards around, making positioning important. Number 2, each player having a deck leader, an assigned monster card that can't fight, but what allows you to play cards from your hands to the open spaces around them. Attacking this leader directly attacks life points. Number 3, the tiles on the board often have one of several different terrain types that give different advantages and disadvantages depending on the type of monster on them. For example, on dark or wasteland terrain, zombies get to move an extra space per turn and get an increase to their attack and defense. But on mountain terrain, they lose attack and defense points. There is various card effects to change the surrounding terrain to your favour. The Darkness card carried me a majority of my early game, making them invaluable to have in your deck. Number 4, as long as 2 monsters are compatible, you can fuse them together either straight from your hand or on the field. No polymerization needed. You may need to look up a list however, because there is a lot of possible fusions. The gameplay loop is all about the cycle of playing a match, getting new cards, building a deck and repeat, backed up with some very strong presentation and some hardcore gacha, and you've got a game that uses your own brain's chemistry against you. When you first start the game, you get to choose between 3 starter decks from a randomly selected pool of 17. On my playthrough, I used the power of gacha and pulled the zombie deck, because I have superior look and taste. Skelemans forever. After you've chosen a side, you're taken to a map where you select and play against various characters from England's history who will use different decks and boards. First up is Elizabeth of York. I had to quickly learn how to pilot my deck because the CPU doesn't fuck around. She proceeded to kick my teeth in until I learned that zombie cards, while weak on their own, are great at fusing and have a lot of flexibility. Then I discovered the boy. This beautiful fella can buff every zombie on the field by 100 attack and defense every turn, and was my win condition in a lot of my games. I love him. After I beat Henry's wife, the game took me to a roulette wheel. Some of the cards that were in her graveyard were in the slots. You can only get 1 of each card per roulette, so if you match 2 of the same card, you'll only get the 1 copy. However, if you get 3 of the same card, you get some rares. This is one of 3 ways to get new cards. The second way is a system called Reincarnation, which the game does its best to hide from you, as it never mentions it in the tutorial, and it hides it in the deck builder on the L3 button. How it works is you get to recycle 1 card from your collection for 3 cards of a similar rarity, but there is a cooldown of 5 matches, win or lose. What I'm trying to say is, use this as early as possible, because by the time I discovered the system I was basically finished the game, and didn't get to use it at all. By the way, there is 853 cards in this game. That's 2,559 if you want 3 copies of each card. That's tied to RNG. Enjoy the grind. The first early wall I had to contend with was Margaret Bruford. She was a cold woman who played big cards that she liked to buff like crazy, on top of an already insane terrain advantage. Mountains, which my zombie boys did not like very much. Got through this one by sticking to the wastelands on the sides until I could get my king. Eventually, I changed the mountains to a more favourable terrain. Then I hunted her down like a dog. The next stages were significantly easier. Then I got to Shadi. He's white now, I guess. His board contained something called Crush Terrain. I hate Crush Terrain. What it does is any monster with 1500 or more attack points who move onto this terrain instantly dies. But I'm sure it won't get any worse than this. That's enough about boards and strategies. For now, I want to talk about the music, which you've been listening to this whole time. The soundtrack is exceptionally good, and pretty varied as well. Take a listen to this. That track was inspired by Persona 5. It also invented medieval hip-hop. That shouldn't work, but it does. Point being, the music is awesome. Give it a listen sometime. Before I move on, I have to quickly touch on the battle animations, because they go in. There's one for every single monster in the game, and they're all really unique and incredibly well animated. I have no idea how they pulled this off on PS2. After you collect the last Rose card, you go back to Stonehenge, only to find out Christian did a fucky wookie, and oopsied a demon straight from hell. Come on man, you vouch for a guy and then they go summon an ancient evil. What can you do? Being the charitable person that you are, you agree to bail him out of his mess, and you challenge Manowagdan Fablir? Yeah, him. I beat him in 4 turns. After banishing Fab, Christian honours his promise and gets ready to send you back home. He can't come with you though, so he gives you a token as a show of appreciation. Once you're sent back home, Christian then leaves England. The magic cards just kind of dissipated, and Henry Tudor attacked England, eventually defeating Richard III in battle and becoming the King of England. And the Rose Duelist was wiped from the annals of history. Now, I don't say this lightly, but Kazuki is a genius level intellect. This game is great, go play it. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching. This one should have been out way sooner, but real life does that sometimes. Anyway, see you next time.